From a Season 9 episode that's filled with pure dumb luck to the absolute cringe fest of flirting between Antonio and Brett, here are some Chicago Fire moments that fans hated. Let's kick this off with the episode Blow This Up Somehow from Season 9. So, this one starts off with a really intense situation at a gas station. The Firehouse 51 team has to rescue people who are trapped under a collapsed structure. It's super tense because there's a risk of an explosion and even a baby is stuck there. But then, Blake Gallo takes a huge risk and saves a woman, almost getting himself killed in the process. Unfortunately, after that exciting start, the episode takes a bit of a nosedive. It mainly focuses on a couple who pretend to have seizures to trick the paramedics. Their plan is to steal the paramedics' fentanyl and replace it with something harmless. This causes some trouble when Sylvie Brett and Gianna Mackey almost lose a patient because of the fake drugs. So, they decide to take matters into their own hands and try to catch the thieves. The problem is, the whole storyline becomes kind of silly and unrealistic. It relies too much on random luck and unbelievable coincidences. It's like the paramedics turn into detectives or something, and it just doesn't feel very believable for the show. And that wasn't the only blunder from Season 9. There was also the unnecessary drama in the episode Funny What Things Remind Us that frustrated so many fans. One of the reasons why Chicago Fire is such a fantastic show is because it focuses on thrilling emergency rescues and the incredible bond among the members of Firehouse 51. However, some episodes in Season 9 seem to lose sight of that. Funny What Things Remind Us shifts the show's attention to the relationship dramas of its main characters, particularly Stella Kidd and Kelly Severide. The trouble begins when Kelly hears from a colleague that people think Kidd only got into the lieutenant's program because of her relationship with him. Instead of addressing this issue directly with Kidd, though, Severide decides to avoid her and not even talk to or see her until she passes the exam, attempting to make it seem like she achieved everything on her own. Naturally, this plan backfires. Stella, completely unaware of why Severide is upset or why he's been absent for days, becomes even more stressed about the exam and eventually chooses to move out. It's frustrating to watch because the whole situation could have been resolved if they simply communicated with each other. Instead, viewers have to endure Severide doing everything possible to avoid Kidd while she plays detective to figure out what's going on. And to make matters worse, Matt Casey and Sylvie Brett are also avoiding each other due to their own romantic feelings, adding a soapy element to the episode. And just like how they sometimes tend to mess up the storyline, there are also issues with some characters that piss fans off. Take Stella Kidd's character, for instance. You know, with Chicago Fire having such a diverse and strong-willed cast of characters over the years, it's bound to happen that some characters don't sit well with everyone. And it seems like veteran firefighter Stella Kidd, played by Miranda Ray Mayo, falls into that category for quite a few Chicago Fire fans. One user on Reddit, for instance, started off a discussion by expressing their hope that Stella doesn't pass her lieutenant exam. They used to really like her character, but they felt that the writers have been struggling with her since Season 8. According to them, Stella has become almost too perfect to be realistic. Someone else also chimed in with a similar sentiment. They pointed out that Christopher Harriman took around 5 seasons or so after passing the exam to get a promotion, and even now, it's hardly acknowledged. They kind of feel like Stella's promotions happened way too quickly in comparison. Then there was another complaint that Stella just wasn't coming across as credible. Fans thought the show creators might have this idea that being a strong woman means being perfect and capable of anything. They also mentioned how Stella is on screen about 90% of the time, which makes it hard to see other characters due to her seemingly unrealistic success. And Stella isn't the only character they ruined. Fans were also pretty pissed about the changes in Casey's personality. You know, it's interesting to see that not all viewers were too bothered by the departure of Matthew Casey, played by Jesse Spencer, during the show's 200th episode. In fact, if you look at online discussions, some fans actually seemed okay with him leaving. And you want to know why? Well, it seems like a few fans felt that Casey's character took a turn for the worse after he was promoted to captain in Season 6. According to many fans, they thought the writers were purposely making them dislike their beloved characters, especially Casey. They believed that his attitude became more arrogant once he became captain, and that really rubbed them the wrong way. It got to the point where it was just unbearable to watch at times. But you know this still wasn't as annoying as the time Cruz proposed to Zoya. Now, Chicago Fire has had some amazing and memorable romances throughout the series. Fans have witnessed some great pairings like Dawson and Casey, Severide and Kid, Mouch and Trudy, and Herman and Cindy. But if we had to pick the absolute worst, it would have to be Zoya and Cruz. Back in Season 2, Cruz had a major crush on Otis's cousin Zoya. The problem was, she was more interested in Severide and didn't give Cruz the time of day. It got pretty cringeworthy when Cruz agreed to marry her so she could get a green card. It made poor Joe look desperate, and fans couldn't help but cringe along with him. Thankfully, they eventually called off the whole charade, and now Cruz is happily married to Chloe. It just goes to show that not every romance on the show hits the mark, and Zoya and Cruz's storyline definitely missed it by a long shot. And I know how it pissed off all of us. But there's one more scene that unites us when it comes to hating on the show, and that's all the stuff that Casey and Gibbs had to go through, especially the whole children ordeal. The loss of Louie, the little boy Casey and Gabby had fostered, really hit hard for both the characters and the fans of the show. It was such a devastating blow for Casey and Gabby, especially after everything they had already been through with their previous loss. And you know what? It made the fans angry too. I mean, we'd all invested so much in Casey and Gabby's journey, and to see them face such heartbreak again was just too much to handle. Fans were emotionally attached to these characters, and seeing them have to say goodbye to Louie was incredibly upsetting. It's like we were right there with them, feeling their pain and struggling to make sense of it all. And it's moments like these that remind us why we love the show so much. So yeah, the loss of Louie was a tough pill to swallow for both Casey and Gabby, as well as the passionate fans of the show. Another tough pill to swallow, though, was how poorly Kelly was being treated. It's no secret that when an innocent character on Chicago Fire gets unfairly blamed for something, it really stirs up fan opinion. And it seems like one character who often finds himself in that position is Lieutenant Kelly Severide. Fans believe that he's scapegoated more than anyone else on the show, and it's a source of frustration for them. In a Reddit thread titled, "What do you guys think is the worst Fire episode?" fans didn't hold back their anger about the ongoing blame game directed towards Severide. In fact, many fans pointed to a Season 4 episode as their least favorite, where Severide unjustly lost his rank. It just didn't make sense to them that he would be penalized for something that was completely unrelated to his job, like personnel leaving the firehouse. But finally, here's a cringe fest of a scene that had us all moaning in annoyance. You guessed it. It's the horrible Brett and Antonio flirting scene. Season 5 of the show introduced a new romance between the police and fire departments, with Brett and Antonio finding a connection. However, their budding relationship wasn't exactly smooth sailing. In fact, they often seemed awkward and fidgety around each other. Take, for instance, their flirtatious scene at Molly's bar. While the actors had good chemistry, some of the lines they delivered made viewers cringe with embarrassment. There were a few moments that stood out, like Sylvie's line where she compared herself to David Copperfield, saying, "I'm a regular David Copperfield." And then there was Antonio's sexually suggestive remark about his magic hands. Let's face it, those lines were corny, and the whole interaction just felt awkward and over the top. So, from the absolute cringe fest of flirting between Antonio and Brett to a Season 9 episode that's filled with pure dumb luck, those were some Chicago Fire moments that fans hated.